All right, it's 49ers-Cowboys week, so we've got to make this special. And what better place to go to than Kezar Stadium, the original home of the 49ers. It was once a 55,000-seat palace right in the corner of Golden Gate Park in the middle of the city. The pillars are still here. The structural support is still here at Kezar Stadium. This is the way that you used to walk into the stadium. And guess what the final game at the stadium was? It was the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys in the January 1971 NFC Championship game. The reason that the 49ers hate the Cowboys goes back to the fact that the Cowboys won the final game of this stadium in 1971, 17-10. Craig Morton, Cowboys quarterback, John Brody, 49ers quarterback, and on this field, the 49ers had their hearts ripped out by the Dallas Cowboys. But on this field, the 49ers also had a lot of good memories. And why don't we take a quick look here as we discuss what's coming up on Sunday. What's coming up on Sunday? Well, the 49ers are playing the Cowboys at Levi's. And it's going to be Brock Purdy on one side, and it's going to be Dak Prescott on the other. Dak hadn't been really good this year up until yesterday. Dak was number 16 in efficiency, had thrown a ton of interceptions, and generally had been underwhelming watching him. That goes back to him not being good against the 49ers in the postseason last year. But he looked really, really good against he looked really, really good last night against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, that's something that the 49ers definitely have to account for. Their defense is number one in the NFL. But if Dak Prescott plays the way he did yesterday, there can be deficiencies in the 49ers defense that are taken advantage of. I think the Cowboys have a similar arsenal as the Raiders as far as good play action capabilities with a pair of good backs and Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott. They have a really good number one receiver in CeeDee Lamb, 1,300 yards this year. And they obviously have Dalton Schultz, tight end, who can run a lot of the same play action concepts that Darren Waller ran with success against the 49ers. So 49ers have to be on their P's and Q's to ensure that they draw out bad Dak Prescott in this game. Anyway, here we are. I'm on the field now at Kezar. This is where it all happened. 49ers moved the candlestick in 1971. And, you had so many awesome memories on this field. I'm going to come out with a more edited video in a little bit showing all the stuff, but that's where the wrong way touchdown from Jim Marshall, Vikings, 1964, recovering a fumble, running the wrong way, scoring a safety for the 49ers happened. And here, if you move over to looking toward the east, you see Kezar Pavilion, which is an indoor venue. The locker rooms for Kezar Stadium are under Kezar Pavilion, and players would exit out onto the field through a tunnel that connects both of them. So this is the tunnel. This is the famous tunnel where players would get beer thrown on them, the visiting players, I hope not the 49ers players, as they came out onto the field to play the 49ers. We walk to the actual tunnel, which is under lock and key now, but you can see down that legendary alleyway. Such a cool relic of San Francisco still here. And then after the 49ers moved out, they filmed Dirty Harry here with Clint Eastwood. One of the climactic scenes, maybe the climactic scene actually, was in this stadium. And now I could walk down the tunnel that John Brody and so many other players used to get out onto the field. Here we are at Kezar. That rhymes. That's good. Arches are still there. You see the big one very far off in the distance. Now, this was a 55,000-seat stadium up until 1989, and that's when they downsized it. They still play high school games here. And then behind me, that's right there, that arch, that's the gym of the former San Francisco Polytechnic High School. One more time. See that? That high school no longer exists, but that's where Bob St. Clair, former 49ers offensive lineman, went, and where George Seifert actually went to school. Speaking of a 49ers-Cowboys rivalry, George Seifert was the coach of the 49ers in the 90s when they played those 3 straight NFC championship games together. Bob St. Clair, Hall of Famer, that's a wild story. He's the only player in football history to play every single one of his home games from the high school level onto the NFL at the same field. And that field for Bob St. Clair was the one right behind me, was Kezar Stadium, because he went to San Francisco Polytechnic High School right there. That was the gym. His high school games were on this field. Then he went to the University of San Francisco down the street. His college games were on this field. And then he played his entire career for the 49ers before becoming the mayor of Daly City. So all his NFL games were on this field. But speaking of George Seifert, we have a cool piece of history that really links to George Seifert outside of the fact that his high school used to be across the street. And that piece of history you will find right here as we walk to some of the stands here at Kezar Stadium. I'm on the track right now, as you can see, heavily used by the locals. Good place to work out now. The field is nice and lush. They don't allow people on the field. Check this out though. You guys recognize these? These are seats from Candlestick Park. So Candlestick was demolished after the 2013 season, and they decided to take some of the seats and put them in Kezar Stadium. So what you have here are the 49ers' two former homes, Candlestick and Kezar Stadium, living as one. And I said this relates to George Seifert because George Seifert went to high school across the street right there, and then George Seifert, a 49ers fan growing up, was the coach of the 49ers when they faced the Cowboys in the 1990s. And those were epic, epic matchups. And the rivalry has now been renewed. Last year they played in the playoffs. Trent Williams laughing at Cowboys fans. That was great. And now on Sunday, it's going to get really, really epic. So again, 49ers need to force Dak Prescott to be uncomfortable because, I mean, we talk about Prescott, but on the other side of the ball, I think the 49ers are going to get production out of Brock Purdy. The Cowboys secondary has been a little suspect, right? It's been, especially if Jaron Kearse is hurt. It looked like he had a knee injury yesterday. That's their safety. It's a boom or bust defense to begin with. But if they're a little bit unhealthy at safety, there's going to be pickings for the 49ers to have in this game. And I think it's going to be, it's a matter of not stopping the 49ers if you're the Cowboys, but you have to contain them. And has anybody contained the 49ers with a healthy Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel and those guys in the lineup? It hasn't happened yet, which is why the 49ers are favored in this game, and I think they probably should be favored by more. But Dallas is the number 2 defense in the league. 49ers are number 1. And I just think there's a big gap between number 1 and number 2, especially in the context of the 49ers offense. It's going to be going against the Dallas defense. Until somebody proves they could slow this 49ers offense the way that they're currently constructed with that number 3 pass blocking line, all those weapons, and Brock Purdy not making mistakes, until somebody proves they could slow them, I give the 49ers an advantage. And that's even if it's a Purdy versus Dak Prescott quarterback matchup. Last year, Jimmy Garoppolo outplayed Dak Prescott, despite the fact that Garoppolo tore up his shoulder and didn't play very well. He was still better than Dak Prescott in this game. So what's to say that this version of the 49ers with a healthy QB in Brock Purdy and many more weapons and a better offensive line can't take Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, and the Cowboys to school? The key is going to be to block Parsons so he can't blow up any of these plays. And I think that George Kittle is going to help Mike McGlinchey with that. There's a reason why the 49ers are favored, and to keep it that way, they're going to have to make sure that they slow down Dak Prescott on the other side. And that's going to involve helping out Nick Bosa, playing discipline on the back end, and doing the stuff they didn't do against a team like the Raiders to stop an attack that can challenge them in similar fashion. All right, that's my talk about 49ers-Cowboys of today. 49ers-Cowboys of the past lives here. Kezar Stadium, Golden Gate Park, San Francisco. The rivalry of the 70s happened here. The very last game on this field was the Cowboys beating the 49ers in the January 1971 NFC title game. And then the 49ers got their revenge with fans sitting in these seats. They brought these in from Candlestick in the 1980s. Cowboys got their revenge back in the 1990s. 49ers had the last laugh of the 90s in January of 95. And the 49ers currently have the most recent laugh over the Cowboys. That happened last year. That happened in Arlington, Texas. Sunday, we're going to see this rivalry move to Levi Stadium for the first time. The new home of the 49ers. Signing off from the old one, the original one, Kezar Stadium. Everybody take care.